Hey YouTube, Scott here. I just want to give my review on the Eachine Falcon 180. When I first got it, I thought it looked really cool. It had the motor tilted going forward about 10 degrees. I thought that would be cool, but it was hard to fly. Out of the box, they claim it's ready to fly, but this thing is hardly ready to fly. Excuse my junkyard garage. We moved in here a month or two ago, and it was just been a mess. Anyway, back to the quad. It had some landing gear. There's little metal ones over here. They fell off after the second flight. They're garbage. The way that it flew, if you're a beginner and just entering FPV, this is not the quadcopter for you unless you are willing to take the time to figure out how to adjust your PIDs or even flashing firmware to make it fly right, because out of the box it flies in rate or manual mode, which is basically for intermediate flyers that really know what they're doing. I still consider myself a newbie, and as you can see, it's missing parts. So basically, as a newbie, if you're flying in rate mode, you will damage this quadcopter if you don't know how to fly like the pros. The LED in the back, this came off the second time that I used it, and I saw a lot of complaints online about it. So what I did is I used this thing called Q-bond. I don't know if you could see that there. I don't even know if my camera's picking it up, but that's Q-bond attaching it. And what that is, it's a combination of super glue and some type of chemical powder, and when you bond the two together, it makes it almost super hard, like, I don't want to say steel, but pretty hard, where you can just pick it up like that. I mean, and it's not coming apart. And that's fully loaded. My antennas, I did some mods to that because they were coming out the back. Use them on the front now. Let's see what else. The skids, since they came off, I had to use something else to balance it, so I just found some foam from one of my other quadcopters, used some double-sided tape, put it on there. It's flush to the ground, and it doesn't hit the LEDs either. Changed the blades to tri-blades, and also, more important, one of the most important things to me, basically I removed one of these legs here. I don't know if you can see that. I took it off, and there's another screw that's on top. This top screw, I put it on the bottom, so that way it still has structural support. When you hit something, it's not going to come apart, it's not going to vibrate. Also recommend using Loctite on these screws on the bottom and on the top, because after I adjusted or changed from clean flight to beta flight, which is another thing that I did, it was flying really well, and all of a sudden I felt these vibrations, and the darn thing almost came apart. So make sure you tighten the screws, use Loctite on it. I'm getting back to clean flight and beta flight. I tried to flash beta flight with clean flight, and I totally bricked the board. I couldn't use it, so I had to go online and try to figure out what to do. And I found something on YouTube where I guess it's these STM32 loader drivers or whatever. I had to use some cables to jump the boot on the board on the flight controller, and I was able to not only save the board or bring it back to life, unbrick it, but I was also able to load beta flight on this sucker too. And man, it flies a lot better than when I first got it, because when I first got it, I hated it. Flew it a couple times, and it's been in the garage for 2 months or over that now, and with figuring out how to flash it to beta flight 3.01 and using PIDs, tuning PIDs that I got on Facebook group, which is the if you just Google or go to Facebook and put in Eachine Facebook group, it's the first one that pops up. But anyway, there's a guy in there that hacks the actual PID settings for the SP Racing F3, which is what I have here. All right, don't have time to go outside, because where I live anyway, these aren't legal to fly since I'm 3 miles from the airport. So I'm just going to give a quick flight demonstration. Before, I hated this quad. I absolutely hated it when I got it. It was so bad I had buyer's remorse. But now this is my favorite quad right now, until I get my Eachine Wizard X220, which should be probably in December. This right now is my favorite quad. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start it up, see what we get. So like I said, by doing that, also that mod, by getting rid of that leg, I'm able to now put any batteries in that I want, up to 200 or 2200 milliamp 4S batteries. This is a 1500 milliamp 4S battery. Fits super tight and snug, not coming out. Same thing with the 2200. It sticks out about that far, but you know, it was better than actually strapping the battery underneath, which was what I was doing. And you know, you crash and hit the ground hard enough, you're going to damage the battery. So with that one mod, I'm able to use any battery that I want. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. We'll time this, as I always do. Arm it. And now that I've used Betaflight with it, instead of having rate mode, I now have auto stabilization and horizon mode. So I can do flips and it flies stable. Well, more stable than what it was. All right, so here we go. Start my timer. I said, here we go. You can see it flies a lot smoother. Anyone who's bought one of these knows that when you first get out of the box, you go left or right, it just keeps going because it's in manual mode, but now it's not. Auto stabilized, which is just great for newbies. And I do have a 4S battery in here right now. LED is still working with the Q bond on it. And as you can see, even flying indoors, it's a very agile quadcopter. Very responsive. I do have horizon mode on here as well, but I'm not going to do that in here because it did flip. And I am a newbie, so just being able to do these type of turns inside of a house, my garage, because it's now stabilized, that's a testament to how good this thing flies now. If you are a newbie, definitely, I still don't recommend this quad. You probably want to go with something like the King Kong 260, which already comes programmed correct. So out of the box, that thing flies well. But this one, you'll go from loving it to hating it and having to teach yourself how to flash it to the proper firmware, back to loving it. 4S battery is super powerful. That sucker. I'll be surprised if I don't crash it through this demonstration. But as you can see, it is very stable now, man. And check out the pitch on this. Can't wait to get it to the park. Look at that, man. I do not recommend flying it in your house either, because as you just saw, almost crashed. But I did figure if I could fly it well in here, well enough, then I'll be able to fly it outside well enough as well. So, yeah, awesome quad. Ooh, all right. I'm going to bring it down so that I don't crash it on this review. Okay, back to this review. Basically my thoughts on the Eachine Falcon 180. It's a great quad once you figure out how to flash the firmware and do mods that basically a beginner would not really know how to do, nor would you want to know. You just want to go out there and fly, and you really can't. If you really want to enter, FPV or just racing, recommend getting something like this, the Whirlwind, that already comes pre-programmed to fly straight out of the box, incredibly at that, and fast. And with this little mini battery here, the 25C 7.4 volt, you'll get 10 to 12 minutes of flight time with this. And it's made of carbon fiber too, and you can probably get it for like $79, $80, something like that. Getting back to the Eachine, I went from loving it when I got it because it looked really cool to hating it, back to loving it again, and removing that arm, as I told you before, you're now able to slide any battery in there, any 4S, and this is a 2200 LiPo, and it'll just go right in here now. Boom. Sticks out a little bit on the back, but with the strap, won't come out. Great fit, and you can fly for 10 solid minutes. So all in all, I think it's a great quad once you figure out what you're doing. But if you don't and you're a newbie, you're going to be miserable. Or even if you're not a newbie, if you're just a novice and you're into this hobby, you're going to be really disappointed out of the box because it says ready to fly and it really isn't. But give it some time once you really get into racing quads and figuring out how to program firmware. I would come back to this then when you're in the novice or intermediate flying, or into the hobby and like to tinker. Then I would get this afterwards. So that's my thoughts on this great quadcopter. It is actually my favorite quadcopter until I get my Wizard X220, which should be in December, and then I'll review that one. But this thing is so maneuverable for a 180 size quadcopter. Hard to beat it. Hard to beat it. Anyway, this is Scott. This is Scott signing out. Thanks.